My name is Austin Dressman, and I am the Community and Events Manager here at Engaging Networks, which means I get to open up these webinars and hand it off to the people that really know what they're talking about. Now, I'd like to intro the two people that are going to be joining us here for the webinar. And I'll say the most experienced team members in the history of Engaging Networks. Graham Covington, who goes without saying, he's our founder and our CEO at Engaging Networks and Accessible Intelligence as well. And then we also have one of the original Engaging Networks team members, Marta Fornell DeSatius, who is our expert product manager here, and they're going to walk us through segments. And so without further ado, Graham and Marta, I will hand things off to you.
Great. Well, listen, thanks everyone for joining us today. This is a big day. This is a massive change really in the philosophy and strategy of our technology and how we deliver value to all of the organizations that we serve. And the story really started a number of years ago, but for this particular component of our 2024 technology roadmap, we're talking about segments today. It started last December when there was a discussion around the need to do a few things that would help position Engaging Networks as a technology platform for our clients that would enable them to drive more what we call actionable insights, information, value into your daily work in terms of segmenting audiences within your overall supporter base, how you communicate with those supporters. And we felt that there was, on the basis of everything that we'd done within this sister company called Accessible Intelligence, there was a lot of stuff that we could do within machine learning to help leverage value for our clients. And but it meant that we needed to really change some of the fundamental components of the platform, and that starts with segments. The reason that the change that we wanted to bring to all of our clients through segments was so important, and then why it had to start with segments is that, as you'll know, as clients of Engaging Networks, we have traditionally had two ways that you build an audience within Engaging Networks. One is the query builder, where you're building an audience for example, an outbound bulk email that you're sending to a certain number of people. You have the ability to create sort of sub-audiences within that overall messaging, but you're doing that and you're identifying those audiences and those people based on the query builder tool within Messages. Or potentially using Query Builder in conjunction with the other tool that we have called Profiles. So we had these two different sort of technologies in the platform that allowed people to identify segments of individuals within your supporter base. But there really was no rationale for that. It was just something that kind of the platform grew up with over time. And so it really made sense for us to say, well, if we're going to drive value for our clients by making sure that they can identify audiences more effectively, more efficiently, and communicate with those audiences more efficiently and more effectively. What is the tool? Is it the query builder or is it segments? And the answer was really it's neither. We think that in order to prepare the technology and the platform for delivering that kind of intelligence to our clients, we thought, well, we need to build a new tool. So we've called it segments. And longer term, what it really is a complete replacement for both the query builder and profiles. And so what we wanted to do, again, was build segments in a way that would allow you to pull in more data categories, more sophisticated queries, a better UI and a better UX. So your experience using the technology in conjunction with some more traditional query building technology that we've built in, but then leverage that across the platform. So segments is the starting point. Segments is the way that we are able to help you identify individuals to take advantage, for example, of our new quick pages. That's part of our current technology priorities. And quick pages, for example, there's no reason why we can't help you identify components of pages, for example, that either using predictive analytics or machine learning that are underperforming, problems, etc., things you can tweak, things you can improve. But you might want to be able to understand not just how do you change a page generically, but for example, are certain pages or certain structures of certain pages performing better within certain segments. So all of a sudden, you're now no longer talking about like a big broad brush of how do we change things and improve them across the board, but you're using segments to understand how specific pages can potentially be adjusted and changed in order to accommodate specific segments within your overall data set. Same thing for bulk messaging. And I'm going to talk about that more specifically in a second, again, at a very high level. Same thing for marketing automation, same thing for reporting. So segments is really an opportunity for us to give you an understanding of your audiences, either through reporting, through delivering messages through automation, through segments or sub-audiences through the messaging tool, or even through how you build and construct your pages. So that's why segments is at the core of this kind of sea change in our approach to how we leverage value for you. So the idea behind segments is that you would still be able to build custom segments as you do now within the profile builder or within the query builder or within profiles. But beyond that, you would be able to also have predefined segments. So if you don't have the time to be able to figure out which kind of segments you should be tracking for either performance through reporting, or even sub-audiences within your bulk messaging. We've done a lot of work to predefine segments so that you don't have to build them. So it's done. So you can just go in and go, okay, great. Here's a series of predefined segments. Here's why these segments exist. Here's how they can be used and understood. And here's how we can leverage these segments across the other elements of the platform. So you can build your own, as you do now, larger number of data categories, again, better UI, really a fun experience. And so you can use predefined segments, and then you also have AI-defined segments. And the idea behind AI-defined segments is to take everything we've done within Accessible Intelligence, our sister company, and understanding how people's emotional connection to, for example, marketing content, and therefore sub-audiences based on people's affinity to identify with a particular type of message. It could be based on transactional histories and behaviors, and therefore how those get defined in terms of marketing automation to make sure you increase your retention of monthly donors or conversion rates for one-time donors to monthly. So segments, again, just to very quickly say again, segments is really the heart of what we're doing now in terms of redefining the way that we drive value for you as users of the platform. And the core of segments is custom segments, predefined segments to save you time, AI-defined segments to bring all of this R&D that we've done into the e-engaging networks technology, and then to drive all of that audience selection into various components of the technology where you're communicating or speaking to your supporters. So I'm just going to very quickly talk. I've only got 3 slides. This is AI-defined segments, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions about how that works. There are a number of Engaging Networks clients that use Accessible Intelligence, which is a separate but connected platform. And it's the way that it works is a little bit different, obviously, than Engaging Networks. But we've learned a lot through the work we've done in developing models through Accessible Intelligence, using machine learning, understanding clustering, understanding reporting, and how that data shows the impact of using AI to help in connecting with your supporters. And we wanted really to bring that Accessible Intelligence understanding into the tool set of Engaging Networks in a different way. It's not the same set of tools, but still we've done things in Accessible Intelligence, like, for example, using deep learning models. We have the organizations that are using AI are able to have all of their email marketing content classified. What's the intended emotion? Is it positive, negative, neutral? What's the centricity of the subject line? What's the issue taxonomy? So what are we trying to ask people to help us with as an issue at a macro level, at a medium level, and at a detailed level? And so we have deep learning models in accessible intelligence, which can now be run within a client's data set in Engaging Networks to help you convert your marketing content into a data set, which combined with the transactional information helps us understand essentially how your supporters are connecting to your content, which allows us to then again create these clusters for specific use within your messaging. It's all automated within accessible intelligence, but still there's a lot of things that are done within EN or can be done within EN, Engaging Networks, that are really quite exciting. So the idea is you've got Engaging Networks, you have transactional information, which if you sign up to this service, allows you to have that transactional information in conjunction with the content classification of your marketing emails, go into models, which will then produce, for example, AI-defined segments. So which of your supporters are more likely to respond to an email with a positive intended emotion or subject line centricity, which is about the donor, about the program, about the organization, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff now that we can say, these are your supporters that are more likely to connect to your content. And so they become AI-defined segments. It goes beyond that, and it goes into not just who's going to connect with certain types of marketing content, but also based on their transactional history. For example, which kind of supporters that are monthly donors are most likely at risk of lapsing as a monthly donor over the next 60 to 90 days. So this is the way the model works within Engaging Networks. Again, this is not being used now on your data. This is simply something that you can explore with us and then turn on. All accessible intelligence clients already have access to these services within Engaging Networks, which includes all of our generative AI technology, et cetera. So we can talk about that again, but it's just to say that there are AI-defined segments because this is like part of the rationale behind creating this new version of segments. And to give you just a further example of how segments can work with marketing automation, if we know that you've got a total list of 1,000 monthly donors, we have models that we have built that will help identify potentially over the next 90 days, 200 monthly donors that would be at risk of lapsing. We have models for both 60 days and 90 days. And based on the individuals that we identify, imagine now if you can now automate marketing communication to those monthly donors, obviously to encourage them to obviously not lapse and maintain their monthly gift to your organization, which we can do, again, through accessible intelligence with clustering and some content classification, but we can do through Engaging Networks through at least identifying these individuals and putting them into a marketing automation tool. So this is another example of how segments can help drive things like donor retention through the marketing automation tools. But it all starts with segments and the AI, in this case, the AI-defined segments. And the next piece that we're delivering past segments is our brand new reporting technology, which is very exciting. Again, it gives you the ability to incorporate segments into what you're reporting. So we have things that are called actionable insights to say, well, based on, for example, your major donor segment, here's what's happening within the reporting. But by the way, not only are we tracking that as a segment within reporting, but we can now recommend things that you might be able to improve or do differently within your technology, within your pages, and within your communications that will help increase the participation engagement of your major donor segment. So again, this is segments being used within reporting in conjunction with actionable insights to be able to help you easily put in place communications plans, whether it's through marketing automation or even changes to pages, which I talked about before as well. And that's all driven by segments. So it's very exciting because we're essentially taking all of the core functionality of Engaging Networks, starting with segments, and using segments as the tool, which is now going to drive value through messages, marketing automation, reporting. And for us, it's just it really represents an opportunity to drive a lot of value for all the organizations on Engaging Networks. So that's the rationale, that's the strategy, that's why we're building what we're building. So segments is obviously out now. Reporting is next. We've talked about marketing automation, which is the next after reporting. Reporting is currently in the engineering group, and so it's in development. And then we're going to switch from that once we finish some of the product discovery in marketing automation to delivering marketing automation, and then Quick Pages will be the last one. So again, it's a major sea change, but the focus is really on starting with segments and using segments to now start building out a lot of value in the other tools.
Okay, so as Graham mentioned, segmentation and Engaging Network has relied on the use of two separate tools so far, the Query Builder and Profiles. And this new segmentation functionality called Segments unifies both of those functionalities into a more powerful tool for segmenting supporter data and allowing you to build all your queries and segments now in one place. Segment, as mentioned, is a foundation block for a larger development initiative, which we're undertaking at the moment, and is going to be followed by reporting and marketing automations to deliver a full solution. So it's very exciting to see the first step now being completed, and we're excited to show you around, although I know that some of you already have been trying segments out, and I do appreciate initial feedback coming in. So let's dive in. So in terms of principal features that are coming alongside segments, we've got expanded data categories available to use in building more defined and accurate segments. We've got a visual drag and drop interface that's hopefully intuitive and easy to use, providing visualization of what's actually happening in your query. Automatic conversion of the visual builder into a traditional builder, sort of like a line-based builder, has now been completed as well. So this is something you're more comfortable with, then hopefully we've satisfied that need as well. Default segments called predefined segments, which Graham already talked a little bit about, eliminate the need to build custom segments from scratch for some of the most common use cases. So we are offering a selection of out-of-the-box segments as well alongside custom segments. And additionally, the new AI segments that facilitate creating more predictive segments based on supporter behavior and preferences are coming along in October. So stay tuned for more communication on that. So what's actually new in the new interface? We've got the drag and drop interface, allowing you to build complex queries, leveraging support for both N and OR queries. So this has in the past been a bit of a pain point and sort of a gap that we've now addressed. So you can use now N and OR queries in a single segment as well as nested segments. So this will hopefully be an exciting addition that will boost the efficiency of the segmentation process, but also allow you to optimize the number of segments you need to build in your account to satisfy your use cases. There's now a new help content slider to help usability of the new tools and providing clarity on how specific overlays work. So hopefully they'll be quite clear in terms of how you use them. But obviously, as the time progresses and you've got any feedback, you continue using the system, do let us know, obviously, if there are any items that still need clarification, and we'll keep on improving on this documentation that's now available in the dashboard. We've got a wide range of data categories. Some of them, obviously, you'll be familiar with, but we've added a selection of new ones as well in the segments tool. So we've got survey response, we've got premium gift and symbolic gift. We've got transaction details, which now allow you to filter on payment type, for example, or tax deductible status of a donor, which was one of the needs that we've identified alongside the discovery process. We've got automation status as well as frequency of recurring donations. Again, so this is a new addition to allow more granularity in terms of how you can segment your donor groups. Last advocacy date and last give date are also on the list of new additions to the segments tool, as well as recurring initial versus all recurring, which allows you to identify new donors that have started their recurring commitment with you during a specific period of time. So what's currently available, and as of the latest release, we'll be obviously diving into the dashboard very soon. But just in short, we've got Segment Builder covering both visual and traditional builder, a selection of data categories, a range of predefined segments, as well as dashboard help tooltips. And this initial release, this first release sees an integration of segments into marketing tools, where users can select a segment as an audience for marketing tools broadcasts, as long as you've got at least one segment created in your account. So in terms of powering marketing tools, you'll see availability of segments on the list, and as a user, you'll be able to switch to choose whether you want to leverage new segments functionality or take advantage of legacy audience selection process as well. So both will be available, although you won't be able to switch between the two. So you sort of need to make this commitment in terms of which direction you would like to go. Okay, so I'll go ahead and jump into the account, and towards the end, I'll also sort of cover what's coming in the future releases, as well as any documentation and resources that we have put together, just to draw your attention to how to find all the necessary information about the segments and any related training. Okay, so we'll just jump straight into the account. So under data and reports, data segments, you'll see a new navigation item. So that this will take you to the new segments functionality. And here you'll see 3 tabs available to you. So we've got My Segments, which are custom segments defined by yourselves, by clients, and any other users at your organization. So these are your custom segments that you build from scratch, leveraging a variety of data categories that we've built for that purpose. Then we've got predefined segments. So as mentioned by Graham already, it's a selection of pre-built out-of-the-box segments, which you can take advantage of without having to build the queries from scratch. We've created a selection of ready-to-use segments, and they do obviously have certain definition preset by us, but you can customize each of them to a certain point and update the preferences based on how you understand those particular segments. So for example, if I look at a low-level donor, you'll be able to see that you can define sort of the amount that defines that low-level donor, as well as how far back we are looking at. So this was any low-level donors that submitted donation during the last 12 months. Similarly, if we look at lapsed donor segment, you'll be able to see that these are recurring donors who have not given gift within a set number of months. And again, you can define how many months back we are looking here. So as you can see, you've got a certain level of customization. So once you save those segments, when you use them in the My Segments query, they will pull up records based on such criteria. On that list of segments, you'll be able to see a button to run them. So initially, when you first use segments tools in your account, those segments will run automatically, but then from that point onward, you'll be able to run them manually. So whenever used in the custom segment builder, that count would be based on the last time that segment was run. However, when you're sending broadcasts to specific audience, we will always run any segments and nested segment queries before that campaign job runs. So we will always deliver sort of the latest results for you, which is a huge improvement over the existing system. Okay, and then finally, we've got the AI-defined segments, which Graham already explained, but just to confirm, this is a subscription-based service. So if you are interested in exploring AI-defined segments, which are coming in October, do let us know. Do let your account manager know, and we'll put you in touch with the relevant team member to get the conversation going. So I'll be focusing predominantly this demonstration on My Segments. So on the list, obviously, as your account is quite new to segments, you might not see any segments in your account just yet, but as soon as you start building custom segments, you'll be able to see that they populate this list. You'll be able to edit segments, delete them, and then in future October release, you will also be able to duplicate duplicated segments. So this is one of the additions in future releases. you will notice that there are use cases defined at the top. So you've got broadcast, automations, and reporting. So automations and reporting, as mentioned by Graham, is part of our roadmap. So as this development progresses, obviously you'll be able to take advantage of those as well. But for the time being, we've got integration of segments into broadcast functionality. So that's the one you'll be able to use for the time being. In the October release, we are also adding a description. So you'll be able to add custom description for each of your segments just to clarify what data exactly that segment represents. So if you would like to create a new segment, you click on this button, and over here, you'll be able to identify, to enter a new name for your segment. So let's say webinar demo 1. As mentioned, for use in broadcast, automations, or reporting. So depending on the use case you are building that particular segment for, you can select the appropriate option over here. So for now, I'm just going to select broadcast. I can save the segment. And now on the left-hand side, you'll be able to see there is a variety of data categories sort of grouped into sections. So you've got supporter-related categories, you've got fundraising, you've got advocacy, engagement, and so on. The list scrolls so you can easily access items from that list depending on what you're searching for. You can also collapse those options if it's easier to just access items this way. So if I now wanted to start building my query, I would choose one of the categories from the left-hand side, drag them across on the canvas. So let's say opt-in question. I can choose multiple opt-in questions as well. So I can choose, for example, three different opt-in questions. Select the answer I'm searching for. This is looking at the current status, but you can also, if needed, filter on supporters that have given that answer during a specific period of time. I can now include that supporter group and save my segment and get a count for whatever that selection identifies. So as you can see, it's 9,000 supporters. Now to continue building my query, I can choose one of the additional categories from the left-hand side. So let's go for recurring status. So I'm trying to identify active monthly recurring donors. So as you can see, this is one of the additional options we've added in segments, which allows you to identify donors based on their recurring frequency. I click include recurring status here. So now I'm looking at opt-in supporters that are active monthly donors. So I can select get count, and you can see that the count adjusts obviously to the criteria I've selected. Now, if I wanted to, let's say I'm sending a broadcast message to this group and I would like to exclude people who perhaps donated a single gift during the last 7 days, I would drag across fundraising activity greater than 0 on donation pages. So we've now added quite a lot of granularity on each data category. So you'll see quite a lot of options available to you as you are building your queries. And that will hopefully allow you to identify your supporter, your donor groups more accurately as you're delivering sort of segmented messages to your audiences. So in this example, I can choose from a variety of different donation page types. So sometimes if you want to create a query specific to donors that submitted donations on premium donation pages, that's possible too. So you would just choose that option from the dropdown. Additionally, we've got single versus recurring type. So if you're trying to export, so in my example that I was just about to create, I wanted to exclude single donations that have been submitted during the last 7 days. So I can specify the date range as 7 days over here. And then sometimes if you are searching for recurring donors that submitted the initial recurring donation, we now have this additional checkbox that also allows you to identify that group only. So actually, if you were trying to create a segment of new recurring donors, that's now possible using this additional checkbox, which is very exciting. So if I now wanted to exclude that group from my segment, I click exclude fundraising activity. And as you can see on the canvas, we now see 2 shapes. So we've got circle shape, which denotes inclusion, and octagon, which denotes exclusion. So as you continue dragging different data categories onto Canvas, you'll be building a query, which essentially consists of and or queries. So if I now wanted to say, okay, I want all supporters who meet the criteria that I've already identified on Canvas or participated in any email to target or petition pages during the last, say, 6 months. I'll add that onto Canvas as well. And now we are looking at all users who are opted in and active monthly donors, but did not donate a single donation during last 7 days, or submitted any advocacy action. So as you can see, using a combination of overlapping shapes or standalone shapes, you'll be able to achieve quite complex queries, which allow you to achieve and or sort of relationship. Now, this is our new visual builder, but we've also, as I mentioned, created the traditional builder, which is an alternative representing different categories in a linear way. So if this is the sort of look and feel that you prefer to work with, because it's easier for you to understand what's actually happening within the query, that's fine too. There's a seamless switch between the two builders. So as you can see, we automatically convert the query created in the visual builder into the traditional builder. And you can now see that we're looking at opt-in supporters and recurring status, active monthly, and we're excluding single donors, or we're including advocacy supporters that have submitted email to target or petition. Sometimes for some of the more complex queries, you might want to add the top filter, for example, opt-in status. So let's say if your query gets quite complex and you have a lot of N and or clusters already on Canvas, you might want to say, okay, I want to apply standard opt-in question to the whole query. So the addition of the top level filters basically adds flexibility in terms of adding top level filters such as opt-in or location to the entire query, and then allowing you to focus on the complexity of your query within the main canvas. Okay, so I can save that query and I can run the count again. So this should adjust to whatever my query shows. Obviously, I added an exclusion, so the count went down now as well. Okay, so now on the left-hand side, as I mentioned, there is a variety of data categories, so I just wanted to call out a few of them. So under supporter data, we've now grouped specific field types under sort of personal, location, and other data categories. So personal would be any personal details, and location would be obviously the address, sort of related fields, and other would be any other fields. Under opt-in, as I mentioned, we now have sort of consolidated what was available previously in profiles with the query builder, and a last opt-in answer is part of the opt-in status query. However, if you're just looking at the current status, this is an optional field, so you don't necessarily need to use it. Under fundraising, we've got recurring status, which has the additional frequency, which you can take advantage of. We've got recurring payment stopped, which allows you to identify payments that changed to suspended or canceled within a period of time. So hopefully it will help you identify donors that have stopped their recurring gift during a period of time. For those of you who are using premium and symbolic giving, we have now added those new data categories which allow you to identify donors based on premium or symbolic gift they claimed on specific pages during a period of time. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of granularity here. On the page level kind of filters, so we've got donation pages, target pages, petition pages, event pages, and so on. You will see additional fields which allow you to define tracking parameters, appeal code, as well as date at the sort of page level filter. So this addresses the need for sometimes using different dates within a single query for different page types. So for example, if you are searching for all donors that donated within last 3 months, or advocates that submitted any advocacy page during 6 months, this is now possible as dates have been added at the sort of page data category level. Okay, under advocacy and engagement, you will notice that we have grouped data categories in a slightly different way now. So we've got under advocacy, target pages, petition pages, And then under engagement, you will see, so maybe under engagement activity, that will be quite easy to see. You've got data capture, survey, sign up, email subscription, and e-card. So they are grouped in a logical way. And lead gen forms have been separated into acquisition data category now. So you'll find Facebook lead gen forms under acquisition. So on target pages, just to call out, hopefully an exciting improvement, which allows you to identify more easily now supporters that registered only and have not completed by sending a message, for example, to the target of the campaign, from those that actually participated and completed the campaign. And again, you've got tracking and appeal codes filters available. As mentioned previously, we've incorporated help copy on the overlay sort of slider, which will hopefully allow you to understand exactly what are all the different nuances within each data category and sort of explain what's actually going on. The intention here is obviously to provide as explicit and as clear user interface and help you avoid any guessing work that you might otherwise potentially need to do in order to understand what's actually going on those overlays. So if you do have any feedback on those or anything or you identify anything that's that sort of makes you wonder what data is being pulled in, do let us know, and obviously we'll continue improving on those in dashboard copy. Survey response filter, it's one of the items that have been identified as a gap. So this is quite an exciting data filter, which now allows you to identify supporters who have answered survey questions in a specific way. So you can choose the questions you would like to filter on and then provide the answers you are searching for. You can use either one or more survey questions, whereby we'll be matching supporters to all the answers that they've given to the selected survey questions you've identified. Some of the data categories are obviously those that you're already familiar with. So tracking parameter is still available with addition of date filter, with allowing you to identify supporters or donors that have come through a specific tracking parameter during a period of time. Similar applies to attributes. So we now have a date filtering on attribute filters, which will hopefully allow you to address further use cases and segment those supporter records more easily. Event pages, we've got page sort of level data category similar to donation pages, target pages, and so on, with similar sort of level of granularity when it comes to the options available within the overlay. And we now have also a ticket purchase filter here, which allow you to filter further on the count of tickets purchased. So sometimes you might want to identify supporters that purchased above certain number of tickets and send them slightly different message based on that. In the next release, you will also see additional data category related to events, which allow you to segment on additional donation added as part of the event ticket purchase. Under acquisition, you've got origin source category, CRM segment, Facebook lead forms, as I mentioned. So those are very much similar to what was on the previous offer. And then as part of the future release, which is coming in October, you will see additional data categories related to peer-to-peer, as well as SMS. So I think that pretty much covers it all. I just wanted to call out one more thing related to sort of like the level of engagement on specific page types. So you've got under each category, you'll see advocacy activity, engagement activity, and fundraising activity, which sort of allows you to identify supporters based on how many transactions, how many donations, how many advocacy pages, how many engagement pages of selected types they've participated. So this sort of allows you to identify engaged or disengaged supporters. One very significant improvement, which I mentioned already previously, but just to explain briefly how this works, is ability to use nested segments in your custom segments. So we obviously are offering a selection of predefined segments, but as the time goes by, you will also build a variety of your own custom segments. And you, using additional data categories, you can now include them as nested segments on the canvas as well. So based on the selection, you can now say, okay, I want to include specific selected predefined segments or my segments in my query. So I'll just step out of this and just show you another example. So sometimes when building broadcast emails, you might want to create queries based on quite a large selection of exclusions. So ability to create a separate segment, which includes all those different suppression lists, exclusions, and using that segment as an exclusion criteria, as you can see in this example, gives you the power of modifying those exclusion suppression lists sort of centrally and then cascading down to all the segments, all the queries that are using it subsequently as well. So this is one of the examples where you can use a nested segment to exclude from your query a number of supporter groups that have been defined in yet another segment. Okay, so one of the additional details, one of the additional features that are coming in the next release is additional custom description, which you can add to the query. So when you view the list, those will be available on the list here, just to clarify what exactly is happening in that segment. So I think I've covered everything on the segment builder side of things. So I will now step into broadcast message tools and just step through the sort of process of how the integration looks like as of latest release and what are the future improvements that are coming in October and subsequent releases. So under marketing tools, when you're creating broadcasts, you will now see the possibility of leveraging segments functionality to build audience for your messaging broadcasts. So let's just say, nothing has changed to the user flow when it comes to sending the messages. There'll be just an additional option available to you. So hopefully no processes will be affected by this change. So you go to save the broadcast. Now we are on the audience tab, and you will notice there is an additional option available for you to choose. So you've got my segments or legacy queries. So depending on the preference, you can now start building your segments. And just a note here that this option will become available to you as soon as any segment in your account has been created with the use case broadcast. So as soon as you check that option at the point of creating a segment to be used as a for the broadcast use case, those segments will become available, and this new tab will become available here in this flow. Now, as soon as I select the segment, you'll be also able to see that not only can I obviously send a message to that segment and use it as an audience, but I can also use segments to provide conditional content for particular groups of supporters. So this is my core message. And now if I click add segment, I can now take advantage of segments, predefined segments or AI-defined segments to tailor message that's being sent to the respective supporters. So you can now see that instead of profiles being available at this overlay, we've now got segments. And of course, based on your selection on the audience tab, either profiles or segments will become available at this point for you to tailor the content that's being sent to your supporters audience. Under manage conditional content inside the core message, you will see that you can now enable segments to take advantage of the conditional content at the block level as well. So both inner conditional content and segmented messages have a full support of segments now as well. So just to confirm, at the point of making a decision whether you're going to go ahead with segments or legacy queries as your core audience building mechanism, this is where you're deciding whether segments or profiles are going to become available for you at the message level as well. So whether you are building inner conditional content or adding segmented messages to your broadcast, then the choice of supporter segments, supporter groups will be based on the audience selection. So just wanted to make sure that's understood. And there is no way of changing sort of between segments and legacy query builder audiences after that selection is made. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so I think this pretty much covers it. And just a quick preview in terms of future releases. We've got in October additional data categories, as I mentioned, covering peer-to-peer, lead forms, and SMS. We'll have creation of new segment as an audience in marketing tools, duplicating segments functionality, which will allow you to copy an existing segment and create and save it under a new name. Custom segment description, which I already showed you, and then obviously following the ongoing feedback round, will further improvements to data categories and user interface. Further releases will see folders to allow you easier management of segments across various teams. So we obviously do realize that, especially for larger organizations where various teams are accessing the account and building their segments for different sort of whether they're fundraising or advocacy or general newsletters, the number of segments or profiles so far in the current functionality, it obviously grows exponentially with each user being added to the account. So this is something we're already aware of, and then we're planning for further releases. So I think this is now a good moment to open the floor to questions. So Austin, over to you.
Marta, I'm going to go over just a few questions that have come in here. I am going to address one thing folks have asked about folders. You just talked about that's going to be forthcoming. Do we have timeline on when folders could be expected? I know that was just a question that was asked a few different times.
So it will likely be the November release, so not the October one, but the one after.
Perfect. Great. Thank you for that. One question that was kind of asked at the top of the hour here that I think is a good one, that may have been touched on a little bit, but still I think it's worth asking here, is how does the AI pool data without compromising security and safety of users when you're pulling these things together within segments?
Well, it's all this, basically there's APIs that are pulling the data from engaging networks. Again, this is only for organizations that want to use the modeling that we're doing within Accessible Intelligence. But essentially the transactional information and the email content is pulled via API. There's no personal information. It's just an encrypted Oracle ID. So there's no address information, name, email address, anything, because the actual tools for delivering messages or for identifying supporters that belong to a particular AI-defined segment are done within engaging networks. So that doesn't leave the engaging networks environment. It's just transactional information, which includes an Oracle ID and the email content, which then gets modeled within Accessible Intelligence, and then Oracle IDs are sent back to engaging networks to identify people that belong to specific segments. So that's the relationship basically between engaging networks and Accessible Intelligence where the modeling is done.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Graham. Couple questions that have come in about transitioning profiles queries into segments. Generally speaking, you are having to build those from the ground up, right? Is that safe to assume? And there's no like quick, easy way to kind of do any kind of conversion there?
So we talked about conversion tools, and those might still come. But in the meantime, Segments is quite a different functionality and offers obviously much more robust data queries and much more flexibility in terms of what you can actually achieve. So it might be also a good opportunity to sort of like rethink what profiles, what queries have been used so far, and migrate them in a more optimal, more efficient way. to basically hopefully also decrease the amount of segments you might need in order to cater for most of your use cases. So I
That's
think
an
you will
important
see.
point for everyone. Sorry, just to reinforce what Marta
Yeah.
has said, it's there are a lot of people who end up building profiles because there's certain types of information available in profiles, and they end up pulling those profiles into, for example, Query Builder. And the idea is to obviously get rid of all of that so that you can in one place create a complete audience, build an audience within the platform that doesn't require you to leverage profiles within Query Builder or, one way or the other. So I think the idea is that when we decided to look at how we could automate, for example, conversion from an existing query into segments, part of the problem was that so many queries actually include references to profiles, and profiles are built differently, that it just became basically almost impossible unless that information was done in a way which was very straightforward, unless the query was built away. So I think this is an opportunity for everyone. If you've got a large number of profiles or a large number of queries, source queries, this is an opportunity to think about what audience you're trying to build and what you're trying to achieve with that, and then building it again, because based on the research that we did, most organizations are going to be able to consolidate everything they have in profiles and into stored queries into a much smaller number of segments.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Graham. So it really is apples to oranges. It's a more powerful, dynamic kind of way of doing things. So that's and I mentioned this in the chat, but just calling attention to it as well, that we'll have a workshop at ENCC showing you how to make some of these more dynamic kind of conversions, if you want to call them that, to segments from what you currently have in your profiles and queries. And that means like literally hands-on. We'll have you pull up your account, go through things, and that will be recorded. And we should also have opportunities to kind of do that more in the future as well, if that becomes kind of a popular class, if you want to call it that. So thanks for that. Let's see, let me just go down the questions here, because I know we're coming close to time here. A lot of really great, more specific questions here that I am gonna gloss over for now, because I think we can kind of maybe get back to you one-on-one. But just going over this one more time, just to make sure everybody's clear on this, that one of the questions is, you mentioned segments have to be turned on. Is it going to be part of the regular product, or is this going to be added on free to use for all Engaging Networks users?
Segments is free to use for all Engaging Networks users. The only license-based feature is AI-defined segments. So that is the only one that will require sort of additional change in your license. But the other sort of the core custom segments and predefined segments, they're available in any client account as of today.
Okay, perfect. And anybody who is interested in that AI component should be reaching out to their account success managers as a start for now, or is that the best way to do things?
That's correct.
Perfect. Okay, great. We are coming to time here, and I want to be aware of everyone's time, and also just that this is a lot of information, and I know other questions are going to come up, and I have recorded every question that's been on here, so know that we will try to get back to you. But as I mentioned too, please do feel free to reach out with very specific, or just questions that come to you after this webinar is over. But that being said, Marta, thank you so much for your time. Graham, thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for being here and for your time spent, helping give us so much feedback that helps make this product, the way that it needs to be eventually, and is currently. Thank you so much for being here, though, and know that we'll be talking more about this as in the future days here too.